The discourse community I'd like to introduce is the yearbook community. This was a class in high school responsible for creating the school's yearbook, and it played a big role in my life. I joined in August of 2023 during my junior year of high school, and right away I knew it was something I wanted to be a part of. I joined because I had just transferred to the school and wanted to get involved. But the yearbook quickly became much more than just a class. It gave me a place to belong, a chance to contribute, and a community that's still important to me, even after graduating. Here is a look at my own yearbook. Every layout, caption, and photograph represents hours of teamwork and creativity. You can see the unique style our staff used to highlight our school culture. In yearbook, we had our own words that we used all the time. Let me share a few of them, starting with spread. A spread is two facing pages in a yearbook that are designed and treated as one. Each spread usually covers a single topic or theme, like a sport, club, or event, and combines photos, captions, quotes, and stories across both pages to create a unified look. What makes spreads so important is that they're basically the building blocks of the yearbook. Instead of working on random pages in order, we worked on spreads that were tied to specific events or themes. Here's an example of a spread I found online that shows what I mean. You can see how the photos, the captions, and the main copy all tie into the same theme across both pages. And here's an example of how communication came into play. This is a text message between me and my friend, who was the main editor, talking about how the soccer spreads were done. These kind of conversations happened all the time. It showed how we use our language, like calling them soccer spreads, and how teamwork was constant even outside the classroom. Now let's move on to another word we use all the time, quote. A quote is basically when we add someone's own words to go with their picture in the yearbook. It helps make the book feel more personal because you're not just seeing faces, you're hearing people's thoughts too. Since our yearbook was a competition book, there was a rule that every picture had to have a quote, depending on how many people were in it. Here's an example of a single quote from one person. You can see how their words add context and personality to the photo. Now here's another example, but this time with multiple quotes from different people across several pictures. When you see these together, you get different perspectives that make the spread feel fuller and more complete. And here's an example between me and someone I needed to get a quote from. This shows how quotes weren't always easy to get. We had to actually track people down and make sure we got their words to go with their picture. Now the last word I want to talk about is copy. Copy is basically the big block of writing that goes with a page or spread. It's not just a short caption, it's more like a story. For example, if the spread was about the National Honor Society, the copy would explain what the club is about. Here's an example of where copies usually go. You can see it right under the title. Here's another example, this time for my own yearbook. It's a copy about the girls' volleyball team. This one shows how copies really help capture the season and the team's story. And here's a conversation between me and my editor where she was assigning me to do copies. It shows how copies weren't just something random, it was carefully planned out and assigned because every spread needed strong writing to go with the photos. So copy, along with spreads and quotes, was one of the key ways we used to communicate, to make the yearbook come alive and tell the story of our school year. Announcements were usually made in person, but last-minute announcements were made in group chats. Group chats would be used in cases like these, where we have events and need to coordinate and communicate with each other since those events were outside of class hours. Group chats were also used in case someone left something in class, if there was good news like reaching a deadline, or planning the celebration parties we would throw when we reached a big deadline. This screenshot is another example of how communication happened within our yearbook community. This time between me and the main editor late at night. Here we were checking spreads, rewriting captions, and inputting names and quotes. On this night, we stayed up until 3 a.m. just to make sure everything was finished and submitted by the deadline. Nights like this were actually pretty common. Sometimes it got really intense, but we always got the job done. These late night conversations showed how dedicated we were and how much teamwork it really took to put the yearbook together. Yearbook was a class where everyone had a role, and together we turned all those spreads, quotes, and copies into something that told the story of our school. And yearbooks have been doing this for decades. This copy from the 1950s shows how designs and trends have changed over time, but the purpose remains the same, preserving memories for future generations. What makes it meaningful is how much we rely on teamwork and shared language, things that people outside the class might not understand, but held us together and made the yearbook possible and successful.